something exotic about the sight and smell of Hare Krishna food. Here in Wellington, the Higher Taste restaurant is popular with people throughout the city. And not everyone enjoying a meal here is a follower of Hare Krishna, which is, after all, much more than its cuisine. Today's guest on My God was attracted to Hare Krishna because it answered the big questions that had been chasing her. Questions like, why am I me and not someone else? Am I just my body, or is there something more? What happens when I die? Sino Mathaba is part Zulu from Southern Africa, a dancer and performer, someone who loves yoga. And ultimately, Hare Krishna gave meaning and unity to all these different aspects of her life. She's found the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita very much to her taste, even if Hare Krishna makes some demands of her that some of us would find hard to swallow.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. At first, when you mention to people that I wake up fairly early and I do some meditation, they're just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't wake up at that time. What are you guys doing at that time? But this is known in Vedic practice that if you do meditation very early in the morning, there's a certain time.
How early are we talking, Sino?
I won't say because it might put in your...
Are we talking 5 o'clock?
Yeah, roundabout.
Oh, yeah, earlier, okay. Go on.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock is good.
Okay.
That's the time where your mind is quieter. There's a lot more absorption in you can get a lot done in the morning. Anyone notices that. And so when you do meditation, then it really sets your day. You can really feel how it carries you through the day. Then we generally have a class or a discussion from a spiritual encyclopedia known as the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's kind of the postgraduate of after Bhagavad Gita sort of thing.
Atam, certainly. Anantyam, unlimited happiness.
Then after that we have breakfast. And then we have different areas. Depending on your skills, you can offer whatever help you think you can give. Some people are more managemental, some people are artists, so they do the singing and kirtans, and some people teach yoga, some people cook. So everybody has their different areas in which they can...
So these are all voluntary contributions to the community and the community's interfacing with the wider community.
Yeah, all voluntary, yeah. I teach a class at the centre itself and also around Wellington City. I have a corporate yoga facility that I run where I go to people's workplaces and I teach lunch hour yoga or after work yoga or at the university. I'm also trying to help people remain active in a healthy way in whatever they're doing, whether it's their work or so on, and also to give them experience that there's more to the self than just the body, that you can strengthen your mind. We have a Institute for Sustainable Society. It's a small group that is trying to assist in a more sustainable living, trying to encourage people in perhaps considering vegetarian diets to lessen the ecological footprint. Also, other projects that run from there is that we go to sell some food at the university here in Wellington. Students get a $5 meal, really delicious, very healthy. We also do retreats, just in Otak here, retreat center, Gora Haven. And we run yoga retreats, Ayurvedic retreats, ecological planting retreats, cooking workshops, how to cook vegetarian food.
Adding the tofu.
which is a good substitute for meat because it's high in protein.
Bhakti yoga is a full sensory experience, so we desire to smell nice things, to hear nice things, etc., and to eat good food. And so Bhakti yoga offers such a large variety of good food, karma-free good food, in that it's vegetarian. So therefore we're trying as best as possible to not apply violence to other living entities.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
The way we cook is in such a way that it's an offering to God, and so in Ayurveda it's understood that actually your attitude whilst you're preparing your food is definitely absorbed in
So
it.
my attitude when I'm preparing dinner for my family, the more positive that attitude is, the better that food will be for them.
That's why Mum's food always tastes so great.
best.
Yeah, because she's putting a lot of love in it.
Right. Any other proscriptions, any other things that you don't use in food, or any other general principles around cooking?
We don't use onion or garlic. Different foods take part in influencing your consciousness simply because they will help to ignite that passion itself. So, and you can cook without them and have just as tasty a meal. So we have spices that we use instead of those. On Sundays we have like a cultural festival where you can learn to take part in kirtan. There's usually some kirtan in the beginning, just introducing you to what it is, what it means, the mantra and so on. And then there's usually a discussion. Somebody gives a talk on different subjects, whatever it is of their choice.
And then he goes on to explain that originally the conscious self, us, exists in the spiritual realm, the realm of pure consciousness.
And then there's more kirtan where you can actually move, you can actually dance, because the instruments, the music combined and so on, really, you want to move.
Sino, you have an African name, but you also have a Sanskrit name.
My tribal name, Sino Tando, and my Sanskrit name, Shamgori. Shamgori is actually a name of Krishna. Sham means blackish and Gori means golden.
Tell me about growing up in South Africa.
South Africa is there's so many different tribes. Where I grew up, my mother is Tswana speaking, I'm Zulu speaking. Different dialects, but pretty much the same. I grew up mostly in Zimbabwe, in a village. When I say village, it's not like a whole lot of people living in one place. It's generally one family.
Really?
You have maybe 5 huts or something, and you're surrounded by a lot of forest, a lot of rivers and so on. You have your own field where you grow crops.
How was spirituality manifest when you lived in the village?
It was a lot of ritualistic practices, like sometimes you'd go up to the mountains and you do meditation. I'm sure you've seen like the Bushman people, dancing and clapping and that kind of meditation. And there was no God, so to say. A lot of, wishing the ancestors, the earth, your elders, that type of kind of practice.
Your mother, though, had a Christian leaning. What sort of church did she like?
The example I can think of is like, these full gospel type of churches that you see in America. It's that type, but in an African version.
Lots of energetic singing.
Yeah, lots of bellowing, lots of singing from the heart.
Nice emotional presence, yeah. How did you feel about that stuff?
I went along because I had to. But,
Like 101 other children.
yeah, it wasn't my personal choice, but I did it because I know my mother had, she had good intentions and she wanted to bring me up in a, proper manner.
Growing up there, what sort of education did you have at that young age?
In the village?
Yeah.
I started off in Soweto, which is where I tried to go to like a ghetto school, so you would say.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I never actually ended up going to one, but I lived there in Soweto.
What was Soweto like? Because New Zealanders are very familiar with that because of our engagement with South Africa during the 1981 tour.
Yeah, Soweto's lots of culture as well, very, very rich in it. It is a place where if you're not from there, they'll smell you out.
Okay.
You've got to kind of walk with the people of the place, otherwise it is quite dangerous, especially nowadays. It has become so much more.
More dangerous now than even then.
I think so, yeah. They've tried to clean it up, but there's a lot of poverty and it makes it very difficult. And so it's a wonderful place. There's so many, like the way when I grew up, I loved it. I thought it was great. But now looking back, definitely a lot of danger.
So when you were growing up, there was your mother, your siblings, your father?
Actually, my mother was working in the city.
Okay.
This is quite common. Well, in those days it was quite common that the parents would generally be working in the city and then the children would stay with their relatives, uncle, aunt or grandmother. So I stayed with my uncle and aunt.
Your mother, what sort of work was she doing in Johannesburg?
She was looking after family. At that time, I think it was a Jewish family, and so she would look after their house and so on.
So a kind of housemaid role with a white family?
Yeah.
What made you move to Johannesburg?
Well, my mother saw that in the village you grow up as a child, you work. Everybody in the family contributes somehow. You all go and work in the fields. It's a lot of hard work. And for a child that age, she wanted to give me a bit of a break, and so she brought me with her. She was quite hesitant to bring me to the city because it was still during the apartheid kind of sort of clearing out of the apartheid times. And so she did bring me to the city, but the family weren't particularly favourable to having, their servants' children in the same yard as them. And so she had to hide me for a little while.
A little while, so they got used to the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. When I went to primary school in South Africa, in the city, there was still segregation, not by the authorities, but by the students themselves. You just felt more comfortable hanging out with the same race or the same tribal children as yourself. Even in university, I experienced some segregation as well, which is not so long ago, about 6 years ago or something.
Right. So what about university? What sort of studies did you undertake there?
I did dramatic arts, performance, which was a combination of what most artists know as physical theatre, which is a combination of like abstract dance, a bit of yoga, and just basically expression through body. I'd always liked performing, or I felt more shy being one-on-one with a person rather than in front of a couple of hundreds of people. Because of this background of theatre movement, we had yoga classes within our course, and so I took a little bit of interest. I didn't know much about it, and I later found out that it was actually a whole lifestyle. It wasn't just a physical practice.
How did you get into yoga as more than simply an exercise regime?
I had some friends who were in an arts campus where all the performance and art and stuff happen, and they had been going to a Hare Krishna center. I had never heard of Hare Krishnas, and so my friends they invited me one day to a yoga gathering, and so I got there and I saw these 3 men, shaved heads, very bright looking, orange cloth.
Yes.
Yes. And I thought,
not quite what you had in mind.
no, I thought, how are we going to do yoga in that? I was quite fearful at first because they looked so different.
Yeah. Clearly, you came to New Zealand. How did that come about? Because it's not a logical step to take next for you.
I met some of the ladies that volunteer at the Gora Yoga Centre now. I met them in England.
The Gora Yoga Centre in Wellington.
Yes, in Wellington. And they said, oh, we're heading back to New Zealand. Do you want to come and check out the centre there? We've got yoga, we've got this. And I thought, okay, I'll come for 3 months because, just in case I get brainwashed, I can still go back.
Right.
And so I came, and 3 months after, I was hooked. And now it's been almost 5 years, and it's been wonderful. And I remember one thing specifically, they talked about how just like you look after the body, all right, we clean our bodies, we brush our teeth and so on, but everybody knows that the body comes to a certain stage where, you get old and it sort of starts expiring. But when somebody dies, we say, oh, so-and-so's passed away, may they rest in peace. But who are we talking about? Because the body's underground. It's decayed or decaying. And so they explained the science of the soul. And previous to that, I'd always thought I have a soul.
Yes.
I didn't think I am a spirit soul. And so they explained how actually it's the soul that runs the body. The body's like, in Vedic teachings, it's like a machine. And the soul gives consciousness to the body, and that is why, I can move my arms and I can smile and so on, because there's consciousness. And they said, well, the soul, you as the soul, you need to be looked after also, just like you looked after the external self, the internal self needs to be looked after. And I thought, wow, okay, I've never thought about it like that before. How do you look after the soul? What's the soul like?
So what do you do? How do you look after the soul?
Interestingly enough. Well, as an eternal living entity, we're seeking happiness. Everybody wants to be happy in their lives, but we're kind of trying to get this happiness through things that come and go. And when you apply your kind of quest for happiness through things that are long-lasting, like actually establishing a relationship with God, because the existence of God is, of course, eternal. And through that connection, which is actually what yoga is, yoga means to connect.
Okay.
And so through that connecting with God, then you do actually find happiness within, because you can learn to live your life in such a way where you get spiritual benefits.
Were your friends concerned?
Oh, yeah.
Did you got suckered into this stuff?
Yeah, brainwashing,
Yeah.
going into a cult.
Yeah.
They were very skeptical. Funnily enough, they weren't into any kind of spirituality or religion. It was just, warning me, these people are crazy, or, they just chant Hare Krishna all day and they don't eat meat.
Right.
That kind
It's
of...
terrible.
Yeah. And I said to them, these are the happiest people I've seen. And, they're not taking any kind of weird things, and they live such nice, simple lives. Even though I was telling my friends, no, these people are really nice, I was also quite skeptical, because, it would look so different.
Today, in today's society, we lose sight of the spiritual reality because of the state of our consciousness.
Had you had those kind of questions, those kind of big questions in your mind before?
I'd wondered why it is that I was born in a certain country, that I took on a certain colour, that I came from a particular tribe with particular parents. I'd always wondered, what am I doing here? What's the point of life? What's the goal of life? Who am I?
You've talked about the soul being encased in the body. What happens when you die? What happens to the soul then?
From birth, our bodies are actually always changing. but I feel like the same person. And so it explains in Bhagavad Gita that actually why do we get so shocked and bewildered when we get old and the body dies and we don't know where a person goes. The spirit soul actually is what's giving life to the body. And that is the process of transmigration. That is when reincarnation takes place, so to say. So the soul is continuously existing. And depending on how we've lived our life now, that will also determine the next body. This is what karma is. For every action, there is a reaction. The way we're acting now is also due to a previous life. The things that are happening in this life have a proper reason. Inhale and bring the arms up. Interlace all your fingers apart from the index fingers.
Tell me about the connection then between yoga and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna is just known as that in the West. But when you say Hare Krishna, it means yoga, because the yoga ladder, the topmost part is Bhakti Yoga, which is what Hare Krishnas practice. Bhakti means devotion. I think sometimes nowadays we find spirituality as, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, what do? But actually, Bhakti Yoga is simply adding Krishna or God into everything that you do. So whatever you do it as a dedication.
As devotion?
Yeah,
okay.
As an offering. And so that connection is to reestablish your relationship with God through bhakti, through offering whatever you have, whatever you do, whatever skills you have as an offering to God.
So when you use the word God and when you use the name Krishna, are you talking about the same thing?
Yes.
When we think of Indian religions, I think we think of a whole range of different gods. Why Krishna?
Krishna is not one of the gods. He is the supreme personality of God. Krishna means the all-attractive person. We appreciate a lot of nature specifically. We see beauty like all around us through nature, through different things as well. And Krishna himself is all attractive. He's very beautiful.
What's the chanting about?
It's called the Maha Mantra. Maha means great. Mantras or manasa, it comes from the word manasa, as a Sanskrit word, means mind, and tra means to free. So it helps to free the mind from anxiety, and sometimes we can get it a little bit boggled up in the mind. Three names: Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Hare is the energy of the Lord, or approaching the Lord, starting off. And Krishna, the all-attractive person. And Rama actually means that person who can enjoy unlimitedly. It means the reservoir of all pleasure. So we find happiness and unlimited goodness in Krishna and God. There's two forms of sound meditation you can do. Japa, which is using beads, that's personal meditation. Or you can do it in a group, where kirtan is where there's a call and response. So you're using whatever instruments. Generally we use traditional Indian harmonium, mridangas, drums. And then there's a call and response. So there's a relationship between the audience and the leader and so on. Sound reawakens the spirit soul much more effectively than silence, because with silence also you've got your mind conversing all day, chattering, and it makes it very hard to just listen to your breath if your mind's just on the go. Yeah. But through sound, you can actually almost use that energy of the mind, but just transfer it to a spiritual sound vibration. So the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, it contains yet also surpasses all sacred sounds. begin to see the spiritual and material aspects of things, and also begin to appreciate people for being a spirit soul just like yourself, and in that way treat them as part and parcel of God, as part and parcel of Krishna, just like you are. And so it's like a prayer. Oh Lord, energy of the Lord, please engage me in your divine service.
You've talked about the Bhagavad Gita. Tell us about that.
It's known as the essence of Vedic literature. Veda means knowledge. It's like quite a large, vast body of knowledge. And Bhagavad Gita teaches so many things. It's like a manual for living. It teaches about karma, why it is that we get certain reactions or happiness or distress. It teaches about transmigration of the soul, that actually there's more to just this one life. It teaches about how we can actually get that connection and understand the science of God. Teaches about the absolute truth, what is religion and what is not. It teaches so many different, it teaches yoga psychology. We use Gandhi, he's got this beautiful quote about drinking the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, because it's through knowledge that we can actually understand who we are, who God is.
Do you mind, we're just distributing some of these today. We're showing the Bhagavad Gita. It's ancient culture, philosophy.
And so when you see young boys and girls on the street trying to offering you a book, they're offering that so that you also can get the opportunity to read about this knowledge and so on. It's much more personal as well. Being approached, I understand it's a little bit, at first it's like, what do you want? Yeah. Do you want my money? But actually, it's merely an opportunity to share with others what you have found to be very valuable, and want to give that to others as well.
We talked earlier about you facing these kind of big existential questions when you were just going to university. Who am I? Why am I this person, not another? What does the future hold, and so on? Do you still wrestle with those questions?
No. No. This is another great thing about Bhakti Yoga. This knowledge actually equips you enough that you can actually understand yourself, and you can see the spiritual nature in everybody, see the spiritual selves, and you can learn to treat them in that way, and also understand your goal in life is to try and make that connection with God and actually live in a way that enhances that goal. I'm just trying to apply this to my life, but it's absolutely, the knowledge is just really mind-blowing. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.